was pleased or relieved at the situation. She herself was indifferent. He was her stepfather, and she barely knew him, for he seldom visited the women's apartments, even when at home, preferring life in the hall and the guard-room. A blustery March wind tumbled around the courtyard, snatching at wimples and billowing cloaks. Bright silk banners cracked like whips on the tower battlements, and above them the clouds flew so swiftly across the blue sky that watching them made Judith dizzy. Sheltering in the lee of the wall, she wondered how long they would have to wait. Her male cousins, the Duke's sons, Richard, Robert and William, had ridden out to greet their father in the city. She would have liked to join them, but it would not have been seemly, and, as her mother was constantly saying, when you are an important member of the highest household in the land, seemliness was everything. The roars of approbation from the crowd had become a storm, and Judith's heart swelled with fierce pride. It was her blood they were cheering. Her uncle, who was now a king by God's will and his own determination. To a fanfare of trumpets, the first riders clattered into the courtyard. Sunlight glanced on helms and mail, pennons rippled on the glittering hafts of spears. Under the silks of the papal banner, her Uncle William rode a Spanish stallion, its hide the deep black of polished sea coal. He wore no armour, and his powerful frame was resplendent in crimson wool, crusted with gold embroidery and jewels. His dark hair beat about his brow, and his hawkish visage was emphasised by the way he narrowed his eyes against the buffet of the wind. A squire ran to grasp the stallion's bridle. William dismounted and, landing with solid assurance, turned his gaze on the waiting women. The Duchess Matilda hastened forward and sank at his feet in a deep curtsy. Adelaide tugged peremptorily at Judith's cloak, and Judith knelt too, the ground hard beneath her knees. William stooped, raised his wife to her feet, and murmured something that Judith did not hear, but that brought a blush to the diminutive Duchess's face. He kissed his daughters, Agatha, Constance, Cecilia, Adela. Then he gestured the other women of the household to rise. His dark gaze assessed them, perhaps with pride in its depths, although his mouth, out of long habit and harsh self-control, remained straight and stern. The courtyard was growing ever more crowded as men continued to ride in. Flanked by guards, the English guests arrived. Beards and long hair, Judith noted. Her words to Sybil had been right. They did resemble a flock of wild goats, although she had to admit that the embroidery on their garments was the most exquisite she had ever seen. A richly attired priest, whom Judith identified by the ornate cross atop his staff as an archbishop, was talking to two young men whose similarity of feature marked them as brothers. Mounted on a dapple cob was a yellow-haired youth with fine features and a petulant air. His tunic was that rare colour of purple reserved for royalty, and his hat was banded with ermine fur. She studied him until her view was blocked by a powerful chestnut stallion, straddled by a young man whose size and musculature almost equalled that of his horse. He sported neither hat nor hood, and the wind beat his copper-blonde hair about his face in disarray. Outlining a wide, good-natured mouth and strong jaw, his beard was the colour of rose gold and made her consider Sybil's mischievous comment in a new light. What would it be like to touch? Soft as silk or harsh as besom twigs? The notion both intrigued and disturbed her. He wore his costly garments in a careless, taken-for-granted way that should have filled her with scorn, but instead she felt admiration bordering on envy. Who was he? In the same moment that she asked herself the question, Judith decided that she did not want to know. Her uncle's English hostage was sufficient to her needs. To think beyond that was much too dangerous. She lowered her eyes in self-defence and thus did not see the swift, appreciative glance he cast in her direction. Turning gracefully on her heel, she followed her mother and sister back within the sanctuary of the great stone tower, and did not look back. He was Waltheof of Huntington,